Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Les extiendo mi mano y les abro mi corazón. Les traigo un saludo caluroso de Guanajuato y de México. I feel honored, privileged and grateful to be here today. I bring you a strong abrazo from the citizens of Mexico in my home state, Guanajuato, the cradle of Mexican independence. I would like to start by thanking Speaker Messner, President Yarborough, elected officials, and guest present here today. I would also like specifically to thank State Representative Tony Rivero. For his invitation and for organizing yesterday and today's events. Through all of you present today, I wish to speak to all the citizens of the great state of Arizona, the Copper State, the Grand Canyon State, and all our friends, partners, customers, and suppliers of Mexico. It is a particularly important moment for us to speak here. Worldwide, it is known that your nation is considering what kind of relationship you want to have with Mexico. So I consider my duty to offer a Mexican point of view about what kind of a relationship we hope our two nations should have. Arizona has been a great example of common sense in focusing on the quality and character of our relationship. The Arizona-Mexico Commission is a wonderful example of commitment, long-term vision, and shared results that can teach a lot of lessons to all of us. I thank you for that commitment. I thank the vision of people such as Governor Paul Fanning 60 years ago, when he stated, "God made us neighbors, let us be good neighbors." He knew that being a good neighbor is not always easy, and that's why we should address these questions. Are we good neighbors? Can we do better? How? Perhaps we even should ask ourselves how we can be partners, friends, and neighbors. So today, I speak feeling the highest responsibility. I will do my best to channel the voice, the dreams, the fears, the hopes, and the values of all Mexicans. I will try to summarize all in a simple statement. We want to be friends. We should be friends, and we will be friends. Friendship is described by Aristotle as simply a relationship between two where the two individuals share goals and work together to achieve them. For someone like me, the relationship between Mexico and the United States is a matter of the utmost importance. Our happiness depends on it. My present, my past, and my future are bonded to it. I'm a Mexican that deeply loves Mexico, but I learned to love and respect the United States in the same way because part of my family is American. If we accept the challenge to move further in our relationship, we should start with the basics. St. Augustine once said, "You cannot love what you do not know." We need to know each other. Some of us have undertaken an enormous effort to know each other, but some others of us have not made such effort. By doing so, one will realize that we share more things than what we imagined, and one will realize we can learn from each other. I like to say that when you listen to others, you risk the task of learning. Now, discussing even just the basics of Mexican-U.S. relations, it is difficult because our relations between countries are full of complexity. We share the longest border in the world, 1 million daily formal crossings each day. With Canada included, we share the biggest trade area in the world, even larger than that of the European Union. Mexico and the United States exchange 140 million in trade goods per minute. We have more than an economic link. 1 million US citizens reside in Mexico, and 35 million people living in the United States have Mexican roots. And most of them are American citizens or have an authorized immigration status. We share foods, cultures, and the arts, ranging from tacos to Carlos Santana, or the movies or Mexican director Alfonso Cuarón. Our relations go beyond the agenda between our two federal governments. Recent days have brought some tension to our relations. But with this tension comes a great opportunity. We are taking them in both our countries to reflect on what kind of a relationship we want to have and how to make it better. I had an English teacher years ago that used to tell us, good, better, best, never let them rest until your good is better and your better best. So that's the challenge that we have before us. The world is changing faster than our ability to understand it. No country can face the future alone, not even the wealthiest one, not even the one with the biggest economy, not even the United States of America. If two heads are better than one, then two countries together can do better than one alone. It's true. Gracias. It's true that we share a lot of common problems: political, economic, commercial, migratory, social, environmental, energy, technical, borders, and security. We need to recognize that Mexico is indeed responsible for a part of what happens in the United States, just as the United States is responsible for what happens in Mexico. We share the same future. May I speak to you with a little tough love? If our relationship deteriorates, if, for example, NAFTA is abolished, Mexico will suffer the loss of jobs, of course, but the United States may also be a great loser. In Arizona alone, more than 100,000 jobs are directly linked to NAFTA. Consider, please, that the United States, with Mexico, is the #1 world economic power. Without Mexico, the United States is #2 after China, and soon possibly #3 or #4 after other nations. Let's find solutions to our differences, and let's continue being the greatest commercial bloc in the world. In the history of our nations, we have each faced the same temptation, blaming our neighbor as a means to avoid taking the blame of our own actions. Throughout history, we've had presidents and public officers that fell for the easy way and blamed the U.S. for Mexico's violence, poverty, and unemployment. We should not fall into that trap. It takes us nowhere. Most of the time, there is no one to blame, and blaming will not fix our problems. There are many examples of this temptation. Let me focus on the two most common: drugs and unemployment. In Mexico, when we face drug-related problems, it's easy to blame the United States for being the main consumer of the drugs we produce. Conversely, the United States could do the same thing and blame Mexico for allowing drugs to be smuggled into your country, but that won't fix the situation. A similar phenomenon happens with unemployment. It's easier to blame Mexico for taking the jobs, or even worse, blaming the United States for taking Mexican jobs, than to face reality together. The jobs that we lost in Mexico and in the United States, many of them fled to China. I'll give you a couple of facts. In 1994, before NAFTA, Mexico had 4 million jobs in the manufacturing sector, and the U.S. had somewhere around 9 million. In 2016, Mexico had 4.5 million jobs in the sector, and the U.S. had almost 7. So between our two countries, 2 million jobs evaporated. Even if there was not a single new manufacturing job created in the last 22 years, we still would have to ask, where did we go? Where did they go? In 1994, China had 40 million jobs in the manufacturing sector. Last year, they had around 80 million. If we fall into this blaming spiral, we will end really upset with each other, but with no solution at all. Instead, we can be responsible. Yes, responsibility, a word that is not often used in parliaments, except when we are digging in the past. It's a word we should start using more. Responsibility, the ability to find the answers, means that it doesn't matter who caused the problem. What matters is who charts the solution. And I will say it loud. Mexico is in part responsible for what happens in the United States. And that is true and meaningful as affirming the United States is in part responsible for what happens in Mexico. That shouldn't be a bad thing to say, but we are getting used to focusing on the problems, on the darker places of our relationship, instead of seeing the whole picture. If we take a car assembled in any NAFTA country, it does not matter as if it was assembled in Toronto, in Michigan, or in Guanajuato. Before the final assembly, its parts will have crossed our borders 8 times, because a long time ago, we stopped competing with each other. And now we are making things together. We share the biggest trade region in the world. The commerce within NAFTA is bigger than the commerce in all the European Union, as we mentioned. We trade so much, but we need to go beyond that. The human touch, the heart, the mind, the soul, the human interaction that can make our nations better. Once again, know that we have problems that we share, and each nation has a unique problem to solve. You can count on us to assist your nation with its problems, as I hope we can count on you to solve 3 of the main problems that are holding Mexico back: corruption and the need to bolster the rule of law, poverty and its twin sister inequality, and the respect of human rights. These 3 challenges are some of the main causes of the significant immigration the U.S. receives from Mexico. But please know that we are trying to work to address them, and together we can solve it. I cannot stand here pretending to represent the voice of Mexico without addressing the immigration issue. I don't have the solutions, but I know we have to work together to find them. And they must show the absolute respect for law and human dignity. I know that we can find solutions, and I know for a fact that in time, both countries will find proper legal and fair solutions to this issue. I know the difficulties that come from migration. Guanajuato is one of the states that sends the most amount of people to this wonderful country. But I also know the brighter side of it. At the end, we are bound deeper than we thought. Immigrants are good people. And I want to stop here. One of the most common mistakes we make while approaching the U.S.-Mexico relationship is that we always want to focus on our problems, the ones we share and the ones we face alone. This is the moment to change the approach. If we're talking about building a friendship founded on common goals, we should be addressing our goals and our dreams, and we Mexicans dream of a region that has overcome poverty. We dream of a region that lives in peace. We dream of a region that, without fear from domestic or foreign threats, can do things better. We dream of a wealthy region where human rights are fully respected. We dream of a region that has solved environmental threats, the scarcity of water, the production of our food, and that faces the future as something shining and thrilling, not as something dark and scary. How do we make this dream a reality? The first thing we have to do is not make the typical mistake that we've already mentioned. We can only depend on two people to carry the burden. We cannot depend on only two people. So this is so important, so challenging and long-term, that we must involve as many people as possible. Congresses, and I bring a salute from the Mexican Senate, and I am sure that the state legislatures in Mexico share the same feeling. Representatives, mayors, councils, public officials, governors, university students, professors, workers, businessmen, and students. Everybody needs to do their part, because if building a real friendship between two people is hard, imagine the difficulties that come when trying to build it between countries. We have built a relationship that goes further than the relationship between two federal governments. The U.S.-Mexico connection means clients, suppliers, teammates. It means sharing a soccer game or watching the Super Bowl, but it means falling in love. There are 35 million Mexican Americans in the United States that make a big contribution to this country. We are building families together, and that means that we have children that are the sons and daughters of both countries. We owe them a better effort. We owe them a better future. The key to achieving this is collaboration. In Spanish, the word labor, labor, has a related word, labrar. Labrar means to farm. That's what we should be doing, farming our future together, which means choosing the seeds together, planting the seeds together, and guarding the land and the crops together. That's the only way we will harvest the future we want. If we farm our future, isolated from each other, plagues can more easily destroy both of our lands. Just recently, a movement within the Mexican Senate has been designed, and it's called Operación Monarca, Operation Monarch. And the idea of the Mexican senators, and we have over 20 at this point in time, is that we want to build along with you and with all the great people, the good-natured people of this country. We want to be building a better vision. Why did we choose the name Monarch? Because it's the monarch butterfly. It's multinational, it flies, it comes and it goes, and it has strengths, and it's also very fragile. We all are very fragile. I bring a special salute from these Monarch Operation Centers from Mexico, which want to work together with you. As I end my comments, I don't want this to be just a meeting, but a strengthening of our relationship. Representative Tony Rivero, I see in you a great link to ask you to assemble a delegation of elected officials from both parties and business leaders to visit my beautiful state of Guanajuato and other places of Mexico, or meet with me and my colleagues in Mexico City. This would be the beginning of a new process, the beginning of a new page that we can all write, and it would be a tremendous opportunity for you to enhance your knowledge of Mexico's culture, government, and all the virtues that both nations hold. Mexican author Ángeles Mastretta, a few years ago, wrote the following: Nada ganamos luchando por separado para caer vencidos juntos. We won't achieve anything by fighting separately to fall defeated together. Let's learn from history. Let's look back and see what other people did before. And when I look at the pictures of all the people here, we have a huge heritage. All these people had vision, had love, had hope, had a great leadership for the future. And that's why I believe in the following, que hay que dialogar. Es nuestra mejor herramienta. En la historia de la humanidad han caído más barreras dialogando que peleando. We must talk to one another. We must share our visions with one another. Sharing with each other is our greatest tool. In the history of humanity, More barriers have been overcome talking, sharing, than fighting. Thank you. God bless you. Que viva México, que viva Arizona y que vivan los Estados Unidos de América. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Senator Hicks. We appreciate your words of friendship. Members, while the Senator and the Mayor are making their way off the floor, the legislative protocol session is adjourned.